Hello, Christmas Queen.
Hello.
Hi. You look
Yes.
so pretty. Your hair looks fan-fucking-tastic.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah.
So nice. You
And
look so cute, little
thank
elf.
you. I love your mantle in the back,
Thank you.
and I love your shirt.
Cozy.
I
Thank
love
you.
it, the cleavage. And I love how you have your thing all mounted up and it's coming down the proper way. I've been trying to tell you that's how it's supposed to be installed.
You look very cute. I love your tree. I know you've had your tree
Thank
up for a
you.
bit. It looks so cute.
Thank you.
You look very
I
cute
fixed
and
the other one
elfin.
today and added the leopard balls
Yeah.
and it's the red one. So I put leopard balls and green bows and so it's all
Yeah.
cute. But Italians don't do anything until the 8th. So nothing goes up until the 8th of December.
Well, you do.
Because that's
You're
the I know, but that's the Immaculate Conception is the
right.
8th.
Yeah, right.
And so right, and so then they
Oh,
keep
oh,
it from the
that
8th to the
Immaculate
8th.
Conception. I was
Yes,
like,
you know
nothing to
that.
do with you as Immaculate Conception, Dina.
No, no, the Immaculate Conception.
Merry Christmas
Merry
almost.
Christmas, almost. Happy holidays.
Happy
So
holidays.
excited.
Yes.
Oh, I never heard that one. I like it. Can I
Well,
use it?
I'm here to represent.
I
So,
like it.
yeah. So thank you to Laura Lyons for filling in for the last two episodes and being Dina's guest. That was amazing.
Yes. Thank you,
She's
Laura.
she's so talented and so funny and warm and
She
clever,
really
and
is.
I
You
really I
totally.
really appreciate you, Laura. I really do. Thank you, thank
Me
you.
too.
Yeah. Today, you know what we should talk about, Dina?
What?
Maybe all the things we learned this year. That maybe we don't want to do the same thing next year.
Oh, girl, do we have to?
I'm
Do we
back.
have
Let's dive
to?
right into the
She's
painful.
back. Well, and the beautiful thing is did you bring your spray for the frying pan? Because you're about to get in it then.
Oh, bitch, you better come on with it because I am ready for your shit today.
Right. So it's like, did we learn or did we become very aware of as well as learning and then be like, oh shit, I still got more to learn.
Well, I think that's always going to be the case, right?
Right?
I don't know that we're ever going to get past that, but it is important to acknowledge what we've learned so that hopefully we don't do it again if it's things that were painful, right?
Or if we do it again, we learn how to navigate through it before
Right.
it gets to a place where we don't want it to go.
Well, yeah, that's what I
Or
mean.
if we, yeah, or if we did something and maybe we behaved in a way and then it didn't turn out the way we wanted, and then how maybe we could redo it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
definitely.
know what I mean? So I could give you
Yeah.
some examples of that, or I'm sure you could when you were home for the holidays or whatever it may be.
Well, no, what do you mean? I was a perfect angel. I have zero examples. None.
Well, not you, but maybe other
Oh,
people may
okay.
have said
Tons. Tons of examples.
exactly.
Yeah. Where
So
do I begin?
maybe exactly, and maybe other people say things that then trigger us, that then will take us out of our character, that then will make us behave in a way that we swore that we wouldn't. And then it's like all of a sudden, when your face gets hot and your chin starts to tremble and then you see red, and forget it, I'm done and gone. There is no reeling me back in when
Right.
I've gone to that point. So it's kind of like, how do you literally, how do you prevent the point of no return?
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so I even get that, and I didn't even go home for the holidays. I just get it over the phone and
Well, I
FaceTime.
was going to say you're still interacting with people, so, fair
Yeah.
enough. But I will
Mm-hmm.
say, I actually had our words floating around in my little brain when I was at
Uh-huh.
Thanksgiving this year. So I really didn't have any instances. I feel like people are a little bit more aware now after going through 2 years of COVID now and being in these spaces together a little bit more. There was no talk of politics. I was
Oh,
shocked.
I
Like
like that.
nothing came up. And I was like, thank God. It might be the first year, that we've all been in a family situation like that and
Yeah.
nothing real triggering came up. So I was like, wow, this is amazing.
And do you think also too the not drinking helps not exacerbate like the triggers as well, even though it didn't come up for you, just in
Right.
general, sometimes we're
Yeah.
more sensitive at a
Yeah.
dining table,
Totally.
because we've been through holidays since we haven't been drinking, but not the big ones like these.
Right. And everybody else was drinking. I wasn't drinking, so I was more aware. You're right, and that may have may have had something to do with it as well. I'm sure it did. But
Mm-hmm.
just being around certain people is uncomfortable always at these family gatherings. You're like, "Oh, there's always that one that shows up that you
Mm-hmm.
got to just put on a brave face for or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
But it just sort of was like, uneventful this year. Thank God. It was fine. So,
Yeah,
I got lucky
I
that way,
feel,
I think.
yeah, I feel like on Thanksgiving Day was a little verklempt, and sometimes one never knows why, right? So it could be about what I'm missing, what I'm not missing,
Of
all the
course.
emotional feelings, but then I went walking with a neighbor and we wound up doing 15,000 steps. And
Nice.
right, so it wasn't intentional, but I was so happy that I did. And so I felt like I was doing a turkey trot. And I did find myself, though, feeling emotional. And even though I'm in a foreign country and I'm not near my family or my friends or anything, it's always been like that for me. So I would
Hmm.
imagine there's a lot of people out there that are like that as well, in the sense is it's kind of like birthdays. It's like the hopes of the expectation of what you hope may happen, and one
Yeah.
doesn't know exactly what that is.
Right.
And then it's just like when it comes, it all comes flooding in. And then the next day I'm relieved.
Right. And we
Right.
talked about this a bit in a previous episode
Yeah.
of those expectations that we set in our minds of like what we think our perfect holiday should be or what we think our birthday should be like or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to get a
Totally. And
little
I'm guilty
disappointed
of,
maybe if it doesn't go that
yeah.
way. So we have to be careful with those expectations, don't we?
Well, and I'm guilty of in the past of being like, so and so didn't call me today.
Oh
Da, 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 da,
yeah.
da. And I
Oh
would point
yeah.
out who didn't call me instead
For
of
your
who
birthday?
did call me. Even just on Thanksgiving or whatever, because
Really?
that's how they tallied it in my family.
Mm,
It
mm-hmm.
was like,
Hmm.
who called you, who thinks you're amazing, who showed up for you,
Mm-hmm.
and showed up for you what? In a phone call? Like
Mm-hmm.
F
Mm-hmm.
off. Like no one
Yeah.
it's their holiday too. Let's normalize that. Yes, we wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, but do we have the time to sit there and individually, say happy Thanksgiving? Not to everyone. And so I've also learned to not do the scorekeeping.
Well, right. And I'll be honest, like I'm trying to be present in my Thanksgiving. It's one day a
Mm-hmm.
year, right? That your family comes together to be grateful and have this beautiful meal together. You might come together for other things, but this is one time where everybody is sort of dressed nicely and supposed to be minding their P's and
Mm-hmm.
Q's and, being grateful. And I don't want to have to deal with 5,000 texts on the side or be pulled out of that. It's not that I don't want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I do. I'll take a moment, but it's kind of like I just want a day to be present and be grateful for what's right in front of me for a minute because most days I don't do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pulled everywhere.
And and that is lovely. And I'm not saying that it's not, but isn't the hope and the work why we do this work? Yes, it can't be the same all the time, but it's like to be present and grateful of every moment, right?
Yes, but
And
my
being,
point being, don't take things personally if you don't hear from people on holidays because
oh, there you go.
everybody
Okay.
is trying to be present in a way,
Okay.
maybe. You know what I mean? So, because
Mm-hmm.
I used to get that way too, and the scorekeeping, and as you get a little bit older, it's like you start to realize everybody kind of looks at these things differently, and it's not personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the scary part is to some people it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then those may not be your people anymore. And so, because that's the way I was raised, there were a lot of people that I was surrounded by that
Mm-hmm.
are scorekeepers, and our
Right.
tallies just go, okay, you did this, or you did this, and you did this. And it's just a never ending sort of
Right.
cycle.
Right.
And so, I think that that's also really important as we're going into the holiday season more and more, is that how do you want to show up for yourself? We know how we're supposed to show up for friends, family, coworkers, because we've done that our whole lives. So,
That's right.
right. So, what is now not doing that, what do you do with the guilt? It's not a normal feeling, so don't act like the first Christmas or Thanksgiving or holiday or Hanukkah or something that you're not going to do it. You're going to be like, I feel great. No, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable or uneasy because it's new for you.
And the guilt
And
is a real thing, and it will pull you out of your peaceful headspace for sure.
it
If you've got
really
someone
will.
who all of a sudden goes silent on you because they are butthurt that they didn't hear from you or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
And
And that's
for
tough.
you, also not calling certain people to try to preserve your peace and presence in that moment, right? So you're like, okay, today I'm going to take the morning off. Let's say in the past, it's been tradition. You talk to certain family members every morning before everyone wakes up or whatever. Maybe you could talk to those people, have a conversation, say, hey, can we skip it this year? Could we all get together on a Zoom? And, it's not to take away from those traditions. It's just to change it and see what works for you with where you are now,
Right. Agreed.
you
And not
know?
not to say that I didn't speak to anybody on Thanksgiving and I just shut the world off and turned off my phone. I did, but I'm saying like if there are people that I miss or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, I just planned a trip to LA for Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
that I at the last minute had to cancel because there was just too much going on. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, I forgot to call a lot of people and tell them I wasn't coming. So I've been getting texts for the whole past week
Bro.
like, "Hey, what day are we getting together?" And I'm thinking, "What are they talking about?" I'm the worst. I
Whoopsie.
mean, I'm so yeah, I'm all over the place right now. But long and the short of it is, please don't take it personally from people, from some
Well,
people, because
right.
from me anyway, I don't
And
mean it.
listen, I had someone call me a week and a half ago, and we were talking, and they had said, I need to talk to you. And of course, my sphincter is always like, what did I do now? And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, am I in trouble? Jokingly. And they were upset with me. And for months, they just assumed I was doing a specific thing for no specific reason. You can't make everyone happy all the time, but what you can do is you can listen and you could
Hmm.
give a courtesy if that person is important enough to you.
Yes,
Do you
absolutely.
see what I'm saying? So, did I
Yep.
agree with everything she said? No. Was she or he probably emotional of what's going on in the holiday season in the world? Sure. Was maybe I an easy person for that to go out on because I'm always willing to listen? Maybe. I don't know. But I will never know because I'm not in that person's head. And so I learned from that moment is I felt crappy when I hung up the phone, not because of the interaction, but because I never want to make someone feel bad. But
Hmm.
I also was like, what can I do in the future to prevent that? Nothing. I can only communicate. And then if you communicate to me, you have to give me an opportunity to rectify something if I mean a lot to you in your life, because maybe I don't know. And people like to assume I'm super brilliant, but yeah, I can be a little flighty with lots of things, or things just don't occur to me because my head moves so fast. Or so I just say for people who know me or people who are like me or whatever, super sensitive or whatever, people may see me going out and doing other things, but sometimes in for me, they have taken that and taken it personal. Oh,
Personally,
I see
yeah.
you busy on social media. You have time for this person. You have time for that person. And it's like, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not the full story. That
No.
I met that person randomly in a subway and took a picture or whatever it may be. And
Hmm.
so it's just like I, Dina, can no longer jump through hoops, especially during the holidays and during these sensitive times, to make everyone happy because you're not
Yeah.
going to do it.
Well, I just want to know, do your fans come up to you often in the subway and ask for a photo?
Oh my God, often. You have no idea. And sometimes people will come up to me and they'll be like, you're the cutest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Can we take a
Uh-huh.
picture? And I'm like, sure.
Oh my God. No
Right?
shortage.
I'm
Well,
like
good.
Auntie Dina in the
There you go.
house.
There you
Right?
go. Good.
So, well, no, but listen, my sister back in the day when social media first came out, when I first moved to Italy and I would be at like Trevi Fountain and stuff, I would meet people. And because I was alone a lot, navigating myself, and I would take pictures with randos and then post it and tag them because you'd become their friend right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister would go, see, I knew you're embarrassed of me. You never introduced me to any of your friends. I don't know half those people you post. I'm like,
You're like, I don't know
neither
half
do
of them either.
I.
Oh my God,
Exactly.
that's interesting,
So do
Dina.
you see how we put our own narrative to something that it will literally be the way we think or the way we
Mm-hmm.
want so that it supports the story we made up in our
Of
head?
course. Yeah, totally.
I'm
And
trying
I'm
not to
trying
do
to be
that.
better at catching myself in those stories too, because I do the same thing. I get angry with people if I
Mm-hmm.
reach out to them. Same thing. If I reach out to them and I'm waiting for a call back and 24 hours goes by, I'm like, really? Really? So
Yeah,
then your head starts going to what are they doing? Why am I not important
totally.
enough?
You know what I
Working
learned
on
from
it. The universe is
the
giving me
Dr. S
plenty of opportunities to
opportunity. Yes.
practice that
Um,
patience.
Dr.
So,
S used to tell me, move on with your life. And I'm like, what do you mean? He
mm-hmm.
goes, if you called someone, let it go. If
Yep.
they call back, great. And if you
Right.
can talk, great. If you
Yep.
can't, you'll
Oh
make
well.
another time to talk.
Yep.
That one took me a long time to
Mm-hmm.
get used to. And that was because I didn't also have a lot of other things going on. So a lot of what I
Right. That makes
needed or
sense.
wanted
Mm-hmm.
was in that call. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend that I was waiting to see if we were going to do something for on the weekend, I would wait to hear from that friend instead of
Mm-hmm.
making other plans just in case. No, no, no. Then that all that pressure was on that friend.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I've
Yeah,
also
totally.
learned to stop doing that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy, but then what I've learned to do now is out of sight, out of mind, meaning I get so wrapped up in my own fun stuff that I then forget to call people and so people aren't used to that from me. And then it takes them a minute. And then I'm like, oh, so it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Right. And
Yeah.
that is painful too, because we don't realize we have parts in other people's pain.
Of course we do. Yeah, whether we
Well,
mean to or not. I mean,
I never thought I
usually it's
did in the sense of
unintentional.
like irate, but I don't deliberately go out and try to make people feel bad. And I'm sure you don't either. But to hear
Yeah,
people then
sometimes.
go that, right, but then to hear people go that they had this whole narrative going in their head of what they assumed I was doing and why I was doing it. And I was like, do you not even know me as a person?
Right.
Like, if you knew me, that wouldn't even enter it. But then I'm going off of my own ego. I'm not going off of who knows how many people have abandoned them,
That's
who've talked
right.
shit behind their backs. And so it's like taking all of these things into consideration,
Give
right?
them the benefit of the
And
doubt.
totally. So
Yeah,
when you
because you
take all
don't
these
know.
things in consideration, it can be exhausting, but what you can do is show up and do your very best. And I think becoming aware is the first thing into becoming responsible. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to get it right all the time. Not everyone's going to be woke everyone's going to display it in a different way, and it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
different than you and me. So you've got to learn, not just you, me, all of us too, accept things or not take them personal. That's all the you work,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of
Totally.
people
You're
I
right.
think
It
are
is ego
waking
and
up to that.
it's whether you realize it or not, it's all about me. Why aren't they calling me? Why hasn't
Mm-hmm.
anybody paid attention to me today?
Mm-hmm.
So when you
Totally.
sort of recognize that, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to be that person. Let me let that go
Right. And
if you
then,
can.
well, and another one I thought was very interesting is that I had a different situation with someone, and they were telling me they were feeling a certain way for many months. And then I was thinking in my head, well, how am I supposed to know that? Right. Meaning, like, if we don't communicate and we
That's
don't
right.
talk,
Oh,
then
yeah, that's a
how
big
am I
one.
supposed to know? So, but then a lot of people, and in my household growing up, it's kind of like this one. Well, I blocked so and so from this and blah blah blah. But if they really wanted to talk to me, they would figure out a way to get a
Right.
hold of
No,
me. And it's like you
no.
blocked them, they're
Right,
respecting that. And then now you're
right,
pissed that they're not
right.
respecting that. Well, it's Christmas. And if I meant that much to them, or Hanukkah, then they would really try. And it's
No,
like,
that whole narrative drives me crazy
yes.
with
And
people.
Dr.
Mm-mm.
S used to teach me, don't say something unless you mean it,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're going to do it, because
Mm-hmm.
people will hold you to that.
Absolutely.
And that one was a tough one for me to learn, because I grew up in a household where my mom, it's like the gaslighting of like the guilt of,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you don't do that, then I'm not going to be able to come, and da 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 da. So then it's like, okay, well, you're not going to be able to come. Okay, so I'll see.
Okay, bye.
Place and I might not be able to come. I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe, and then of course it would get turned on me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can't believe already you were so easily gonna. It was like, because I had to beg for you to come, for you to want to be with me, so that and I can't do it anymore. I'm
Yeah, it's
exhausted.
exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting. Yeah.
And so I think a lot
Yep.
of people go through that, especially think of it, people who just had kids and people who've never had kids. And I'm talking about adult kids going to parents' houses of like, well, they should come to our house because we have a new baby and the other one already has 4 kids. Or they should show up here because it's too hard for us. We have 4 kids, and for us to go, there's only 2 of them. Like, who gets to decide?
Mm-hmm.
Why do
No,
we
you
have to
got to decide
justify that?
what's best for you. Yeah, everybody has to decide
Yeah.
what's best for
And that's
themselves.
where I think it's easier said than done of, you know, everyone has to start making sure what looks good for them, because you're not going to have a great reaction in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People are going to be like, what do you mean you're not coming? I haven't seen you in this amount of time. You haven't. And then you have to just stay consistent. The key is don't explain yourself, because people are looking for a loophole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in that loophole, it's more like, where can I get them to go? Well, I know you have to work, but can't you come after work or before work? What if you spent the night and you got up earlier? Everything to make you accommodate them, but not to accommodate yourself for your holiday as well.
Right, right. So let's get back
You
to, I want to
know,
go back to what we've learned
sorry.
this year.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I went
Segue.
off on a tangent. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So another thing that I learned and sort of what you were just talking about was being very clear with intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm a person who I'm really good at, let's say, improvising in the moment, or I pride myself on being able to be thrown into any situation and be able to get comfortable, be able to talk to people. That's what made me good at sales back in the day, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
now, as I'm delving into other areas of my life, I'm finding if I'm not intentional, there's a lot of time wasting and there's a lot of miscommunication unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get better at being clear with my intentions and communicating my intentions, which means I really have to sit down and think about what those are. So in work, because a lot of collaborative projects and stuff with work, being clear with intentions. What do I want to do? Where do I see this going? How do I want to be involved? With
So are you talking about
relationships, the same
your
thing.
intentions? Yeah, when you get up in the day, and let's just say like for the month of December, my intention is to, are you talking about those kinds of intentions, or intentions when you're communicating with business people or with friendships or whatever, or both?
I think with all of it, I think it's just planning a little bit more. And already I'm a pretty good planner and sometimes to a fault, but I find that the
Mm-hmm.
things that I'm planning uh, need to be more in alignment with specific things getting done and communicating with them with people better, maybe in a way. Like I
Mm-hmm.
might have it all in my brain somehow in this beautiful thing, but if I'm not
Uh,
telling all these different moving parts, what's going on, then it can create friction.
totally. And
So,
sometimes I know when it's in my brain, I just assume everyone is in my brain
right,
and they already know my intentions.
right, right.
So, yeah, I think you're right with that intention thing. I've also, this one is, it's deep, but it's profound in the sense is that sometimes we think we're being intentional, or we think so, we can't blame others, but we maybe sometimes got to go look and backtrack and go, okay, where did I miss the mark on that? And then
Mm-hmm,
how can I be more intentional or more
mm-hmm,
clear or more specific? Because
right.
intentionality can look different for other people, but it's also different when you're dealing with other people. Some people may be overloaded and could be like, let's not talk now, but can you hold this off until, and then
Mm-hmm,
for someone like me, it's like, well, no, because I'm thinking of it now and I'm telling you no because I can't
mm-mm.
remember it in the future.
No, 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 no.
Okay, so see, but that's someone like you. So then my thing is do I have to cater to you, or do you have to cater to me, or is there a compromise?
I think if it's something important you need to talk about, you need to make sure the person has time to hear it. You can't just
No,
throw
I'm
it
not
on
talking
them and
about
then go,
that.
oh, well,
I'm
you got to
talking
remember
about,
that.
no, I'm talking about if, like, let's just say hypothetical, you're like, well, I'm not that type of person. Don't tell me that. And I'm like, well, I am that type of person. How do those two people find
That's what I'm
a
talking
happy
about. I think
medium?
you need
Oh,
to
okay.
communicate and say, if it's something important you're talking about, right? That
Uh-huh.
you both have time to communicate on the subject. You can't just,
Ah, okay, okay,
because I've
okay.
been both of those people at times. If I'm in the middle of something and anybody calls me and is trying to give me, especially oral information, it's like, well, no,
Mm-hmm.
I can't write this down right now. I'm driving, I'm whatever. I can't take this in. Can we revisit
Yes,
this? I think that person, yeah, you got to be respectful if it wasn't a planned conversation coming at you.
totally.
That's
And
the
I
way I look
think
at it
what's
anyway.
important is we have to watch our tone and our energy when responding to people like that, because a lot of people don't communicate because they're afraid of the other person's reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we can make it easier for someone to talk to, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
because in our head we could go on a narrative of they're going to be pissed. Oh my God, how am I going to say? And then it's nothing what we thought it was. I think also stop the narrative in our heads, communicate sooner, give
Mm-hmm.
that person the opportunity, and then keep going. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
I also learned too is sometimes in my head, I exercise more and eat less than I think. So meaning I exercise more, meaning I'm like, yeah, I've worked out every day this week, but if I go back and look on my stepper, like whatever, it's not the case. Or so what I've been doing is I'm getting more honest with myself, and I'm putting things into the app, and I'm like, oh, so on those days, it wasn't that I wasn't doing great on an eating program. It's just that I wasn't being as good as I thought I was, right? Or because there's been lots of times where Dr. S has said to me, Dina, it's important that we live an honest life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And because we can all over exaggerate, under exaggerate, do other things. And so I think for me, living an honest life means everything organically honest and not getting out of, because living in LA for so long, I think, in pursuing acting, making a story sound exciting was like, who was going to get the attention in the room? The
Mm,
better
of
story, the
course.
bigger thing,
Of course. That makes
so
sense.
I've actually had to learn to tone it down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's challenging for someone
Yeah.
like me because I feed off of my animation and my excitement, and it's a lot of who I am, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
figuring out, is that who I am organically, or is that who I learned to become over time to people please?
Right.
And I think there's a little bit of
Absolutely.
both in there,
Yeah,
you
totally. And
know?
and and I learned that same thing with stopping drinking, because when you're drinking, you're automatically more animated, or at least I am.
Mm,
It's like,
me
do
too.
I have to be that person to be able to hang out with people I love and still have a good time, and for them to love me and for them to have a good time? No, I have learned that I don't, which has been great.
Yeah. And haven't you learned though, wouldn't you say in like the first 6 months of it as well, is that it's like this awkwardness of like, you don't know how to be in a room full of drunk people?
Totally. Totally, because that's the crutch. Like you've used that. I used that. I didn't even realize. I always thought, "Oh, I'm
Uh-huh.
just super social and I'm just this and that." Well, sure, with wine, I mean, who can't be? It's just easy. And I
Totally.
am
And
still
then
social, and I don't have those same fears. Luckily, that I know that some people do, so I should say that with a grain of salt, but
for sure, but I think what happens is in order what happens is we don't wind up doing things, or we don't wind up doing work, because in our head we may make it so much scarier or nerve-wracking than it actually is.
yeah.
And so the reason why I brought that drinking up with the people and families and stuff is, if anyone's thinking of not drinking and maybe they skipped last year and they weren't able for some reason,
Mhm.
if you're thinking of not drinking this year, even if it's just for a year, for a month or
Oh my
whatever,
god, do
all of
it.
those things you tell yourself in your head, you're just gaslighting yourself. You're going on assumption.
Yeah, totally.
And so I've been having nightmares that I drank and I wake up hungover, and then I'm
Really?
super pissed that I'm hungover. And
Hmm.
then I wake up and I'm so relieved that I didn't drink and I'm not hungover.
That is so funny.
Isn't that interesting? So I think what's happening is part of me is going, we're approaching that season. And
Oh,
remember, last year we weren't not drinking. I mean, I stopped on the 30th,
right.
you stopped before, but Christmas Day I
Mm-hmm.
drank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it'll
Me
be
too.
interesting. So, I think that part of that as well. And also what I won't do this year that I did last year is judge other people on their drinking because I stopped and they
Right.
didn't.
Right.
And being
Right.
like,
That's important, I
like,
think.
you know what I mean? And it's not like I do it to their face, but in my head, sometimes I'm like, like, and I'm like, bitch, you've only got like not even
Yeah,
a year under your belt. Like, who the
exactly.
fuck do you think you are?
Right. Right.
Right. And so I'm just like, so it's those two. It's like, how does one stop the comparison game in their head? Because it's happened for so long, even just with assumption or whatever. So what I keep trying to do is like, Dina, we don't do that anymore. And then I just move on with myself. And if something happens in a market or I have a bad exchange, I go in the car, I reset, and I, you know, try to move on and not let everybody else have that effect of that exchange. You know what I mean? Of me being in a bad mood or
Oh,
pissed or
right. Right.
being taken out. How
Yeah.
do I, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
I've been, I've been trying, and I think I've been learning too. I read this meme or this quote that said, every person in your life is a projection of where you used to be, where you are, where you're going, who you are. So now that I'm thinking of that, I'm actually kinder to people because I'm like, if that's a projection of who I used to be, I would want. So I can give you an example. And this is where you know, the weight thing for me is a touchy subject. And I'm laughing now only because I got perspective. So a friend of mine who's from a different country, and she had said to me, oh, I saw some pictures of you before. And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, you were, and I
Mm-hmm.
go, what? And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, you were really, and I was like, well, that's not nice. And I
No.
found myself being fucking irritated as
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
And I was
It's
like, come
offensive.
on, you're a grown ass woman with 3 kids. You can't tell me that you don't know better. Like all this was
Right.
going on in my head, right?
Right.
But then I'm like, but this person comes from a Middle East country that people, I'm not saying they all talk like that, but yes, they don't think sometimes before they speak or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or women are spoke to in a certain way. And I'm like, if you didn't know better for something, how would you want somebody to explain it to you? Meaning, I was saying that in my internal dialogue. And
Mm-hmm.
she goes, well, I don't understand. I mean, you were bigger. And I said, yes, but I was that
Right.
way for a good 15-year period. So for me, that is hurtful to the
Mm-hmm.
girl I used to be and
Sure.
the girl that I am now. And I said, so I'm just letting you, that's really hurtful. And you may not want to do that again to somebody else. And she goes, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Well,
Now,
okay. Hopefully now
listen,
she does.
okay, but
Yeah.
do you see how you and I would be like, you can't tell me you don't know if someone says something to you like that when you're heavy, la 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 la, right? But let's say if you or I grew up in a household where the man is always right, you don't talk back to a man, okay, so I did too. Okay, fine, whatever.
No,
I mean,
no.
come on, dude, I grew up in Newport, like,
No, no. I
so
wasn't
I
raising
get
my
it,
hand for
but
that. I was raising my hand to
oh.
say, does this have anything to do with what we've learned this year?
Yes, it
Okay.
has so much to
Carry
do with
on.
what we've learned, because what I'm saying is that
I keep waiting for the
we
plane to
go,
land. I'm like,
no,
come
but
on, Dina.
we go off the assumption that people should already know and should do things and whatever.
Yes.
I'm going
Exactly.
on the assumption, if you're going to say something like that to me, maybe you don't know. And then therefore, I'm going to come from that place. So then maybe I can help educate you if you're open to that,
Well, and how
because you're
about
talking
this?
to me,
Some people do know, and they're still
of
not going to
course,
learn from you
for
because
sure.
I have given those benefits of the doubt to certain people also, and they
Mm-hmm.
still, and it's like, some of them will learn. You're right. So, yes, I
Well,
think
and
it's
this is
good
the first
to
time
hold
it
that
yeah.
space.
Mm-hmm.
But then what's your reaction when they do it again? You know, or if they do the
Oh
same
yeah,
thing
then
again,
it's
then it's a whole
no.
different, like, that's the next tool you got to pull out, right? Of like,
When
don't
they
take
do
it
it again,
personally.
it's like, bitch, I thought we talked about this. No, it's more
Yeah.
like,
I mean, and
it's
that's
like,
that's where I really get triggered. It's like sometimes the first time people say stupid stuff,
mm-hmm,
it's like, okay,
mm-hmm.
you know, it's hurtful, but maybe they don't know better and I can. But then when they come back at you again with something else is when I'm usually
And then
like,
when they come
okay,
back to you
now
again
it's the
with
work
something
I have to
else,
do
well, and
to
you
stay
could say
calm.
something to this effect is, gosh, you know what? I thought we spoke and I made it really clear how hurtful that was to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to repeat myself again. It's really hurtful. Please don't talk to me like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do it again, then you just remove yourself a little
Right.
bit more from their life and their life and their life. And
Right.
if people aren't treating you how you deserve and want to be treated, maybe you're not around the right people because you shouldn't be having to change everyone around you,
Right. Right. Agreed.
you know?
Agreed.
And so that's why it's hard with family or with certain things because we give them more of a benefit of the doubt than we would give anyone.
Yeah.
And sometimes they deserve it the least only because they have the title of sibling, parent, aunt,
Right.
uncle, whatever it may be. And what I've learned this year is all you do is waste your fucking time because the fact is you could give it 50 years, 55 years, 100 years. If someone has no intention and they could give two shits, they're not changing.
That's right. That's right.
And
And
so
family, yeah, exactly. Sometimes family are the worst. You're right.
and doesn't mean that you have to be
And
there and take it just
well,
because
and they're
they're
the ones,
family.
well, they're also the ones because they know you so well, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that you're hurt by the most because you feel like they should know better.
Oh, true. True, true,
So
true.
somebody on the
But
street could come up and say these things to you, and it's like, you know, who cares? It's like, you know, Abraham Hicks. You ever hear that story that they tell about if someone prank calls you or calls you on the phone that you don't know and says, "I'm just calling to let you know I'm never going to call you again." You're like, okay, never, you know, bye.
uh-huh.
But if it's someone that's really close to you that means something to you says that, it's taken in a very different context, right? So
Yeah.
family's the worst, man. They're super triggering for all those reasons of just, you know each other so well. You're like, why? You of
Mm-hmm.
all people should know not to speak to me that way. So when they do, it's just like right in
Well, because
there.
you know, then they're trying to get a fucking
Oh, of course
reaction,
they are. Of course they are. Which is
and that's
where,
the
again, you got to bring the
tell
tools
me.
back, right? And just go,
Mm-hmm.
see no
Don't
evil,
bait
hear no
me.
evil, speak.
Yes, I'm not a fisherman. I
Satan, get
don't catch
behind
bait.
me. Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Don't let them bait you. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've thought
Because
that many times over, well, not just Thanksgiving too, but like being around certain people recently after all these conversations we've had of like, Ashley, don't let them bait you. Don't let them bait you. Don't let them bait you. You know, it's a good little thing to keep in your head for sure.
well, and it's a good thing to keep in your head because think of this. Even if someone freaking deserves it and
Uh
they
huh.
deserve to be told off,
They do.
do you really want to be the one to do it? Like,
Yeah, I
because
do.
at
I
some
really
point,
do.
okay, but if action is reaction,
Yeah,
at some point you
right.
will get that back in another form
Exactly.
someplace else. So behave
Well, not only that, you're
because
perpetuating that energy. And if it doesn't stop with
exactly.
you, as sure as shit isn't going to stop with that person if they're already behaving that way, right?
Yeah, totally.
So if you ever want to
Totally,
help
totally.
instigate change, then you literally do have to just be the bigger
Well,
person.
and think we have all been guilty. And I don't know anyone in all of my 53 years of living, anyone who thought they were special enough to change that person
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh,
that
yeah,
person would change
exactly.
for them because they're so special. Like sometimes I wake up at night and I'm like, I just will get random thoughts of ex-boyfriends or certain things that people did to me. And I swear I want to WhatsApp because everyone's on WhatsApp. And I'm gonna be like, hey, by the way, fucker. Like, and I'm just like, I let that thing pass. But there's a lot of times where I swallowed a lot of things, and I'm not sitting here telling everyone don't swallow
Yeah,
it.
we know
But if
about
you
your
find
strange
yourself
stories, Dina. I'm not
having
trying to
to
hear that.
swallow, yes. Well, and if you keep trying to
Gross.
having to swallow everything, maybe you're
That's
around the wrong
disgusting.
people. Don't swallow
I
spit.
agree.
Mirror. That's
No, but you bring
amazing.
up a very good point is we're not going to change these people like that. Change
Mm-mm.
takes time. Change takes people sitting and being open to having a different perspective. And
Yeah.
one conversation may plant a seed. Great. Don't expect them to just roll over in that moment, right?
Well, and especially, and we're talking also about, let's say, a
Or
boss or
ourselves.
something. You don't exactly, but you don't know his history. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what he's willing to do, why he is that way.
Right.
You're probably never going to know that. So if
Right.
somebody doesn't show you something in the first, let's say, 6 months of knowing them, of making an effort and wanting to do better, and then you continually find yourself putting yourself aside so that their needs are met,
Yeah.
maybe it's not the right friendship, and that
Yeah.
one's hard too.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Okay.
you
So the
know
next thing, here's another thing that I learned this year.
Tell me.
I'm getting better. I'm trying to get better at trusting that the universe is handing me one step at a time. Like
Oh, that one's hard.
sometimes with everything going on, got multiple projects going on, and then I'm in the process of like, fixing up this duplex right now that I'm sitting in to rent. And there's just a lot going on in a lot of different areas and a lot being pulled. And sometimes it feels completely overwhelming what my priority should
Mhm.
be today. What's this, what's this? And it's just like, just do the one thing you can and start the energy. Because I'm telling you,
Mhm.
I've been so tempted to lay in that bed and just go, oh, you have those days sometimes where
Well,
it all gets to be too much, and even it can cause a little depression. And it's like, that it's
and
going to take so long to get to the place where you want to be. So I've been trying to
well,
just pick up one thing and
and
do it.
if you think about it, what were you taught as a kid? What did your parents do when shit hit the fan? My parents were complete opposite. My dad was out of sight, out of mind, and my mom was in the bed all day. So
Really?
for me, I didn't know that people could function under tremendous amounts of stress
Mm-hmm.
and get shit done, because I
Mm-hmm.
watched someone just pile shit up,
Yeah.
right? And so I've learned this year is that, wait, I actually can be productive, and I actually can keep doing things one step at a time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be maybe in the way that I thought it was, or whatever it may be, but it's not have to, or what, but I still do have to be productive or do something, because it's not going to get itself done.
Right. Right. There are real
And
deadlines here to getting things done. So,
Mm-hmm. So
you know,
it's like maybe go the easiest off the list to the stuff you can get done the quickest,
right.
and then
Well, and
the
there,
method to the madness.
right. So like in fixing up this duplex, there's logical steps of getting things done in a certain order, right? And sometimes I wake up and I look
Mm-hmm.
at what's on the list for that day and I'm like, there is no fucking way. So it's like, nope, I'm not going to paint today cuz I don't feel like it. Today, I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
furniture shopping, or today I'm going to go, I don't know.
So then when that happens, do you plan in your head of when you have another off day to paint? How does that work for you? So that you
Yeah, I
don't,
have
let's say,
to. I
about
have to.
learning.
Yes, I have to
Mm-hmm.
then just go, you know what? But I got to give myself a break. If I'm standing all day, like painting days are long days for me because you've got all
Mm-hmm.
the shit out, you've got all the tarps and all the stuff, you're covered in paint. It's like you want to get as much done possible. So the long days, you're on your feet all day. So invariably, the next day, I don't want to do something that I'm on my feet all day. So I'm trying to get
Oh,
better
yeah.
at scheduling that. It's been a long time since I've done this much physical labor. I love it. Turns out I
Mm-hmm.
love it, love it, love it. It's creating and it's so fun and I love it. And yesterday I knocked out a bunch of stuff that I just didn't want to do, and I'm like, I'm just going to
Uh-huh.
plow through this and it's going to feel so good. And it does. But,
Yeah, see,
but
and I've been avoiding these piles, like they're the doom piles of the
yeah,
ADHD, and I've been
yeah,
avoiding those, and I
the
keep going,
doom
I'm going to do it.
piles.
So then what I do is I put more piles into a bigger pile so that it seems
Ooh,
like less piles. But I now am learning to, what
yeah,
I've learned is I spend more time um, negotiating in my head what I'm
yes,
going to do, what I'm not going to do, all that, instead of just actually doing it. So I'm going to work more on just doing it,
right,
instead of, like, if you set a timer, it probably would literally take me less than 30 minutes, and it's taken me 3 months in my head negotiating and figuring out and blah 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 blah. You
right.
know what I
And
mean?
most of the time,
So
I love being super productive. I love staying busy. I love having projects. But, things come into play and there's the holidays you're working around and you've got to sort of stop and regroup. And then for all of those of us who are, now in glorious perimenopause, fucking hormones and what they do to my
Yes.
body once a month, and the malaise is the best way I can describe it that comes over me, of just like the tired, the fatigue, the just bad
Mm,
moods and energy, and the migraines. Oh my God, the headaches that I have. I have a headache every
it's,
morning that I wake up, and I don't know what that
it's
is other than
awful.
hormones. So I wake up and I just have this like, oh God, again, I got to figure this out again. It's that
So
type of
wouldn't
stuff I'm trying
wouldn't
to
part of the learning thing be to go to a home,
go to a
like a
doctor.
doctor? Yeah.
Well, I have, and it's been in stages. Like the migraines got so bad last month, I mean, it kept me in bed for a
Mm-hmm.
couple days in London, and I was like,
Mm-mm.
I've got to figure this out. So now I do have a prescription, which is great, but there's got to be more to it than that, too. I
But
do have to
I
figure out
meant
the
like a
hormones and the.
menopause doctor.
Yes, that is the next step that I need
Yes.
to do
Okay.
in all my spare time.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah,
Exactly. But I
yeah,
think also too is we are all guilty of putting things off like that, especially
right,
when it comes to our own medical health, because we're
yeah,
like, well, this can't wait, but everything else I'll do. It's like, but
right,
wait, if you're not well, nothing else is going to get done.
right, right,
And so I'm learning. I've always been good about that with the doctor, but not about that with other stuff for me personally. So
right.
I'll put things off, but if it has to do with productivity or capitalism or making
Yep,
money, of course I'll put that first, but all the other stuff tends to go.
sure.
So I'm
There,
learning there is a back burner, there is a balance about that as well.
yeah, and a back burner. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but I want to get that book from the woman that you showed me, Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who's on
Mm-hmm.
social media. She's on Instagram. She's probably on all the platforms, and she specifically talks about hormones and working with that.
Yes.
And she sort of delved into this area differently than a lot of doctors have, because just going to your
Mm-hmm.
normal doctor, yes, I'm sure they know some stuff, but yeah, I need a specialist.
Well,
So she's
and
got a book
I'm
out right now, and
someone,
I'll put the link in the thing. I
okay.
haven't read
Because,
it. Disclaimer, I haven't read it, but it seems like it's chock full of good stuff.
well, I'm someone who can't take hormone replacement or anything like that because I have family history of cancer. So in Italy, they're not going to give me anything. And but they did give me supplements, which it did help. And the number one thing that helped me the most with the menopause stuff, with the sweating, was sage,
Yeah, sage helps
sage
big
oil.
time.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I
and just
recommend
the
that
I
for
just take the
ladies.
little pill supplements. Even you can order them on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, and they work. They're great. And if you can't
Yeah.
get those, go to the grocery store and buy a little packet of sage, real sage, and
And make
tear
some
up a few
tea.
leaves, throw it in your salad, make some tea. That works too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Okay,
amazing.
so there
Like
you go.
sage has
See,
been a
so
lifesaver for me. Thank you.
totally. And
Yeah.
it's so many subtle changes and profound impacts that we learn. It's like just little things to shift. Like when I was thinking the other day, I was like, wait, so if I believe what I believe in my head because of all of my other reasons, why do I think that I'm going to get somebody else who is dead set on not believing or seeing my point? Why do I get myself into these arguments or debates or put, and so I no longer engage in that kind of stuff because I'm not trying to get you to my side. If
Yeah.
you don't see my perspective, then you don't see my perspective. That's a you problem in the sense of, I'm not talking about if you're confused. I'm talking about if you have no intention or no desire to see my
Right.
part and where I'm coming from. Before, I used to think it was my job to
Right.
convince them or show them.
I did too, because we all feel like we're very passionate about the things we believe in and from whatever stance we've come
Mm-hmm.
from, right? I get
Mm-hmm.
it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so really, I think it's quieting yourself down, right? And when we're quiet enough, because I think a lot of us avoid the silence because we know we're going to have to deal with what's going on in our head. All of the things we've been putting to the side, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that one later. I'll deal with that one now. Or it's like, I'll give you an example. Parents, who, whatever, I'm not parent shaming. I'm just saying, you put your kid in front of a screen. because you need that time right there in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But then after 4 months, you don't realize you've created a monster,
Mm-hmm.
because now they're addicted to that screen and they
Mm-hmm.
can't live without that screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just depends, because it's like it might be easier in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to pay for that.
Right.
And so that could be with health choices, not going to a doctor. That could be with eating. That could be with dating choices. Oh, I'm dating this person just for sex. We're just having fun. Bullshit. One person always catch feelings,
Yep.
always.
Yep.
And so the fact is that you have to ask yourself, what is the opposite of this? Because at some point I'm going to have to deal with that opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like going through the holidays, and I never understood going through the holidays, eating yourself through the holidays. And in January, how many of us really have ever stuck to the diet program until the middle of February? Most of us haven't. Right. And so I'm like, it's balance. Enjoy yourself on the holidays, but have a balance. If you have holiday parties, knock yourself out, drink, eat what you want, Christmas Eve. But to use it as an excuse to go through, you're going to pay for that at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've learned
If you
is
want to
that
taste everything, just do smaller portions, maybe, so you
exactly.
can enjoy them and not feel guilty. I
Mm-hmm.
don't
But
know.
what I've
That's what I
learned
do.
is your intention, everything comes with a cost. So it's really what you're willing to invest your money on. Do
Mm-hmm.
you want to invest your money on um, repairing all of the damage you did in that 2 months from Thanksgiving to New Year's,
And your
or do
time.
you want to just exactly, or you just want to balance it? And do you know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that also is a big learning thing, is for us to just think it's going to be easy when it's never been easy in January to start a program, start a new job, start looking for a new job, stop talking to family members, break up with a boyfriend. It's not as easy as we make it out to be in our head.
It's a lot of pressure on January.
Oh, totally.
So the subtle change in the
And
profound impact is
stop
moderation,
putting so
people.
much, exactly. And stop putting so much pressure
Moderation.
on
Stop
January,
putting so much pressure on her. She don't like it.
right? Moderation.
She can't handle it.
Yes, find your voice through this season and figure out for next year what you want your intention to be for the year
Yeah, and
and
I think
what
that's
you
going to
would
be our next
like.
episode, Dina. I think we're going to
I
dive into that
think
a little bit.
so. Might
Yeah.
have been a good segue on my part.
Oh, boy.
Getting good at this.
All right. Thank you
All
for
right.
joining us today in Life of the New Normal,
Thank
and
you. Happy
happy
holidays.
holidays. I'll see you just before New Year's.
Okay. I'll see you
Yes.
too. Ciao
Yes.
for now.